Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jelani Cobb, and you have figured out, being the crack journalists that you are, you have figured out over the course of this year that I'm the Dean of Columbia Journalism School. Nothing gets by you all. I have the pleasure of welcoming you all to Journalism Day 2025. I always think about the symmetry of our year whenever I'm here for one of the two occasions that we gather here in Miller Theater. The first time is for orientation, where you come here just at the very beginning of your academic journey with us. And then the next time you gather here is for Journalism Day, which is the penultimate ceremony in our academic year, and only followed by our commencement activities. And in between, we have that wild, incredible, demanding, seemingly impossible gamut that you all have run, reporting, learning ethics, doing stories, working on this small project called the thesis, all of the many things that you've done, and in between, forging relationships that, if history is any guide, will endure for decades, for the remainder of your career, for many of you, for the rest of your lives. This is what we do here. This is the cycle of Columbia Journalism School, and what we do in the name of continuing that mission that is on the wall to educate the next generation of journalists to uphold the standards of excellence in journalism. And so, with that, I want to turn to introduce this year's Pringle Lecturer. The award is named for Henry Pringle, the longtime faculty member of this school, a Pulitzer Prize winner in biography, and a reporter for the Washington Post. The Pringle Lecturer is nominated by our full-time faculty for their outstanding coverage of politics and Washington. Please join me in welcoming the 2025 Pringle Lecturer, Katie Drummond. Katie Drummond is WIRED's Global Editorial Director, overseeing the title's award-winning journalism across all platforms and markets. Prior to joining WIRED, she ran Vice's digital reporting, video, and audience development teams around the world. During her tenure, Vice expanded its news operations and investigative reporting efforts across Latin America, Europe, and Asia. Drummond has led newsrooms that have been awarded multiple Emmys, online journalism awards, and SOPAs, in addition to a Peabody and other awards. She started her career as a reporter, covering national security for WIRED during the US wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. So please welcome Katie Drummond.
Hello. Thank you so much for that. Let me just get this right. Well, first of all, I want to extend my congratulations to all of you, and my thanks to Jelani Cobb, of course, and the Columbia Journalism School faculty and leadership for having me here today. But it's not just me. I am delighted that WIRED as a newsroom was asked to deliver this talk. And I am joined by 5 journalists from our newsroom who have been instrumental in WIRED's coverage of Elon Musk and Doge's unrelenting incursion across the federal government. And they are Brian Barrett, Tim Marchman, Leah Feiger, Tori Elliott, and McKenna Kelly. Guys, if you could wave, that would be helpful. Thank you. That's the team right there. So I am the ambassador for this group, but I am delivering a message that came from and comes from all of us. And we wanted to use our time with you to share a few of the lessons we've learned through our reporting this year. I think they are fundamental tenets of journalism, at least the kind of journalism that I believe in and I champion. And they have been proven out time and time again for us in recent months. So we hope they can be of use to all of you as you embark on this new chapter of your lives and your careers. So when Wired started reporting on Doge and what they were doing inside of federal agencies back in January, everybody was a little bit surprised. Wired does a lot of great journalism, I will be the first to tell you that, but from our peers in the journalism industry to politicians and even some sources, a lot of people kind of went, Wired? Really? They did. And an editor at the New York Times actually took me out for dinner, and they asked me, they had the audacity to ask me actually, if we had hired a private investigator to dig up stories about Doge for us. That's a true story. Other people kept asking me who we knew inside the administration. Like, who was that one person leaking all of this intel to Wired? How was it possible that Wired was so far ahead of our competition that we were breaking stories on a daily basis that put vastly larger and better resourced outlets to shame? It's actually very simple and very true to the way we operate every day. So I'm going to share with you 4 of Wired's rules of the road, ways of working that we rely on now more than ever, and I hope they're helpful. Rule number 1, ask very basic, stupid questions, and then go try to answer them. So in early February of this year, Tori Elliott, who again is sitting right there, and an alum, I might add, she published a story identifying 6 young men, all between the ages of 19 and 24, who had little to no government experience, yet were playing key roles within Elon Musk's effort to strip cost out of one federal agency after another. It was among the first few stories Wired published on Doge, and it was a blockbuster scoop. But it started with a very, very, very simple question. It was actually the second question that we asked. The first question that we asked was, what is Doge? After we sort of answered that question, we asked, well, who is working for them? And after we answered that question, we just kept asking more. Always basic one-sentence questions, although they got more complicated as our reporting kept going. Who else is working for Doge? Which agencies are they working inside of? What are they doing inside of a given agency? What systems do they have access to? And what could they potentially do with that access? Every story that we've published on this subject this year has been in answer to a simple question that our journalists set out to solve. Reporting is complicated work. I don't want to sugarcoat that. You're dealing with manipulative or mistrustful or scared sources, difficult comms people who often call me, unfortunately, your own newsroom, your lawyers, your own insecurities, your ego. You're trying to find the truth amid a lot of chaos and then get the truth to a place where it's a publishable story in the eyes of every single person who needs to sign off on it. It's messy and it's hard. The answers to your questions might be complicated, they might be opaque, they might take weeks to find out, they might take years. You might never answer one or several of the questions that you ask. But the questions you're trying to answer in the course of doing your job of defining a story should be simple. They're the intrusive thoughts you have in the shower, they're the detail that pops out at you when you're reading another story in the newspaper, or it's the why that springs to mind when you're listening to someone talk at the bar on Friday night. It sounds very basic, I know. The good news is, and I do think this is a tiny relief in the otherwise very challenging career that you've all chosen, it is basic, and trust us, it works. Rule number 2, know your beat and then meet your moment. Is that rule number 2? Hold on. No, rule number 2. Now you have a spoiler. Rule number 2, embrace working as a team. So I don't need to tell you that the field you are entering is a competitive one. It is brutal out there. You're competing with other journalists and other outlets, of course, and sometimes you'll win and sometimes you won't. You're competing for attention in a sea of articles and videos and recipes and podcasts and now AI slop. If you're leading a newsroom, trust me, you're competing for every dollar you bring in to support that newsroom from advertisers and subscribers. I am incredibly, incredibly competitive. I am outrageously competitive, so I know all of this very well. I know how it feels to win at all of those things, and I know very painfully well how it feels to lose. You'll experience the wins and the losses too. But there is one place where you shouldn't compete, and where Wired doesn't compete, and that is within our own newsroom. On any given day, several of the stories we publish are bylined by multiple reporters. On our Doge reporting in particular, the majority of those stories have 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 bylines. And that's not to mention the close collaboration required between reporters and editors, of course, or collaboration with our fact-checking team, our copy editors, our design team, and of course, our lawyers. We don't champion collaboration because it's a nice idea, although it's a very nice idea. Our reasons are actually much more tactical than that. Collaboration is often how you get the best possible version of a story as fast as responsibly possible. So on Doge in particular, the best version of a given story often meant pulling in reporters with expertise across a range of subjects, including Elon Musk's background, the technical details of artificial intelligence, and of course, politics and the federal government. And the fastest version of a given story means pulling together a team of reporters and having them fan out, bringing back their reporting and working collaboratively with editors to shape it into the story that you want to tell. At Wired, I might add, many of those stories came together at midnight or 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. with a group of people at the office, as Leah knows, eating stale cookies, as Tim knows, drinking a little bit too much of the whiskey that I keep in my office. And that's where the magic happens. That's where it all comes together. We believe that journalism is best executed as a team sport, so act like it. Get to know your colleagues, whether fellow reporters, editors, or members of your photo, design, and fact-checking teams. Be kind, support them, celebrate their success, ask them for help and help them when they ask, and then go get that story together. And if you're anything like me, go kick every other outlet's ass, because that is what will get you out of bed in the morning, I promise. Oh, thank you. Some competitive people in here. Rule number 3, I knew it wasn't 2, know your beat and then meet your moment. So if there's one thing we believe in at Wired, it is the importance of having and owning a beat. I'm sure your profs have talked to you about that this year. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be versatile or adaptable. That beat might change once during your reporting career, or it might change several times. Whatever that beat is, do your best to make sure it's something you can get obsessed with, and then get obsessed with it. Nerd out on it, sink your teeth into it, and understand it inside and out, day in and day out. For one thing, that's how you go from good stories to great stories to deeply impactful, world-shattering, award-winning stories. Your expertise, your sourcing, your ability to ask and answer those basic questions I talked about earlier, it all builds on itself over time. At Wired, our best beat reporters start out writing short news stories, they go on to then break stories, and over time, that iterative reporting builds on itself until it's a 10,000-word print magazine cover story, or a 20-minute documentary on YouTube, or a book deal, if that's your kind of thing. And whatever your beat is, truly, whether it's Microsoft or it's gardening, there will be a moment where that beat is the heart of a major news event. There will be a moment where your beat is the single most important thing in the world. And you have an opportunity to meet the moment in a way that only you can. Be ready for that moment at all times. Act like that moment is always about to come tomorrow. To do that, you need to work at it every single day. Make the phone call, file the FOIA request, check in on a source, read the competition. If you had told us a year ago that a combination of Elon Musk, artificial intelligence, Donald Trump, and federal agency databases would meld together to become one of the biggest stories in the world this year, we probably would not have believed you. But when that did happen, Wired was ready. And we were ready because our hungry, obsessive beat reporters had spent months or years acting like their moment was just around the corner. Whether they covered AI or the tech industry, they knew what questions to ask, they knew who to call, and they knew where else to look for answers. I'm proud to say that they met that moment, but remember that they didn't do anything crazy to accomplish it. There were no private investigators involved in Wired's coverage of Doge. They owned a beat, they tracked it religiously, and they were ready to jump when the moment called for it. Rule number 4, and unfortunately, I think the most important rule that I will share with you today, be afraid, but work fearlessly. So I'm sure you've heard the phrase fearless journalism. People love to describe journalism as fearless, boldly holding power to account and publishing vital, newsworthy information that's in the public interest. I believe in fearless journalism. The entire team at Wired does. But I want to encourage you not to assume that fearless journalism means you can't, as a human being and a working journalist, be afraid. Right now, if I'm being totally honest, you should be afraid. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and I'm afraid. I am afraid for the digital and physical safety of my staff. I'm afraid for the safety of my family. I am afraid sometimes for my own safety. I am afraid every time someone at Wired crosses the border back into the United States, especially if that person working for me is here on a visa. I am afraid about what this administration will do next. Will they go after sources or journalists or the employers of those journalists? I am afraid that more media companies and more institutions, those tasked with protecting and championing our First Amendment rights, will follow in the lead of ABC News or Paramount or, yes, Columbia University. They'll bend in the face of brazen, unconstitutional, and unethical. There you go. We call that a sign from the universe. They will bend. I'm pretty sure this is streaming on YouTube right now. They'll bend in the face of brazen, unconstitutional, and unethical government interference and pressure. I am afraid that these institutions will not stand up when they need to, for journalists, for students, and for everyone living through this moment and trying to have a voice throughout. So what do we do amid all of this, amid the fear and the uncertainty? So I can tell you unequivocally, and I mean this, I'm serious about this, I can tell you what Wired is doing. We are getting up every day, we're getting to work, and we're endeavoring to publish the clearest, boldest, most fearless journalism of our careers. The work can be fearless in its nature, in its bones, in its DNA, even if the person or the people doing the work are afraid. I can't tell you what to do right now. Everybody in this room has their own personal risk calculus that they need to take into consideration. But I can tell you what I hope you do if you can. I hope that you take everything you've learned here at Columbia, the energy that you have, the drive that you have, and I hope you join us in doing this work. The tireless work, the fearless work, even if you are afraid. This industry and this mission, they really do need you. We need your fresh eyes, we need your new ideas, we need your energy. Tireless, yes, but some of us are very tired right now. And we need as much sunlight as possible cast on the people and the institutions shaping our shared future. So earlier in this talk, I told you to go kick other outlets' asses, and I meant it. But as competitive as this profession can be, now is also the moment for all of us to band together, to go to bat for one another, to share advice and guidance, to safeguard the First Amendment and the fundamental right of journalists everywhere to report the truth. Welcome to the club, and remember that even if Wired is trying to kick your ass, which we are, we've also got your back. And we're grateful to know that a group as talented as this one is going to have ours. So thank you again, and again, congratulations.
I was an English major in undergrad, which means I know a metaphor when I see one. But if we extend that metaphor, we see that this thing fell down and we immediately picked it back up. And now, Professor Margaret Sullivan will introduce this year's winner of the Mike Berger Award.
Thank you. Please, no symbolism while I'm up here. The Mike Meyer Berger Award is awarded by the faculty of the journalism school to a reporter or a team of reporters annually for an outstanding example of in-depth human interest reporting. The award is named after the late New York Times reporter Meyer Berger, who was known as the master of live human interest story, of the human interest story under deadline. In perhaps the most famous example, and don't try this at home, Berger won the Pulitzer Prize for local reporting in 1950 for stories including his account of a murderous rampage in Camden, New Jersey on September 6, 1949. A 28-year-old World War II veteran killed 13 people, wounded several others, and was arrested after a police standoff at his apartment in Camden. For the story, Berger retraced the murderer's steps and interviewed 50 witnesses. He prepared and typed the 4,000-word article in 2.5 hours, and it was published unedited in the newspaper the next morning. Don't do that. The judging for this award this year was done by Elisa Solomon, Professors Elisa Solomon and Professor Keith Gesson and myself. We had a hard time because we saw a lot of great work, and we have arrived at that done by Cecilia Reyes of Business Insider, who'll come up in a moment. She is awarded for her moving and ambitious series in Business Insider, delving into the illegal housing evictions known as lockouts. Reyes began with 911 calls in 911 calls in Chicago, Atlanta, and Los Angeles, and traced the consequences of these lockouts on individuals and families who bear the brunt of pursuing expensive legal action, often without the resources to do so. In deeply human terms, but without sentimentality, the investigation illuminates the cruelty and inequality that increasingly plague American society. So, Cecilia Reyes, please come on up.
Good morning. I'm honored to receive this award, but I'm even more honored to be here to congratulate you all in person. It's 10 years to the day that I graduated from Columbia College, and back then I really would not have imagined that I'd be standing here today. So congratulations. An illegal lockout is a problem that we've already solved as a society, at least on paper, by requiring landlords to get a judge's order to evict, instead of taking matters into their own hands. So when I was reporting this series, I was surprised and struck by the degree to which individual value judgments of people involved could sway the outcome one way or another. Are lockouts the police's problem? Should they be investigated? Are they a minor offense? Who ultimately gets the benefit of the doubt? The series aimed to push back at landlords versus tenants framing and instead question whether safeguards around due process were working. For the families I spoke to who were scrambling for a home and often went months without one, these safeguards are not working. But I know you're all familiar with the basic principles behind this reporting. I followed your coverage on pro-Palestinian protests and the at times university-sanctioned intimidation of the student press. So I know you've been thinking about and practicing these basics. Punch up, not down, take aim at systemic problems. I really hope your time here has only reaffirmed your commitment to staying in this field. That commitment may feel amorphous at times. So as you continue your work and move beyond these walls of prestige, my biggest hope for you is that you fill your days with little glamour. Seek and have difficult conversations. Get hung up on, get a call back, ask your questions plainly, and then listen. Focus on fairness and doing important work, but feel utterly unimportant as you do it. Let your natural curiosity guide you. Allow yourself to remain a human. Step outside your head often and remain open. Thank you.
We have one more professional award to present, and that is the Paul Tobenkin Memorial Award. Professor Dolores Barkley will present it to this year's winner.
gives me great pleasure to award KFF Health News for this wonderful series. And on a more personal note, one of the reporters involved is Fred Clayson Kelly, is an old colleague of mine. So it was just terrific and a big surprise. The Tobenkin Award is awarded annually for stories that investigate egregious behavior that is discriminatory, injustice on every level. And this year's winner, in their series, Systemic Sickness, Fred Clayson Kelly, Renuka Rayasam, Lauren Saucer, Arthur Allen, Angela Hart, and Daniel Chang exposed how historically systemic racism in the United States continues to harm the health of Black Americans. Through a year-long investigation, the team traced the roots of today's health disparities to slavery, redlining, discriminatory decisions in housing, infrastructure, and access to care. Their deeply sourced reporting not only challenged common assumptions about personal responsibility, but also revealed how government has perpetuated deadly inequities. Drawing on public records and powerful human stories, the series is an indictment of how historical injustice dramatically impacts life and death of American citizens. And now, Fred Clayson Kelly, Renuka Rayasam, Lauren Saucer, Arthur Allen, Angela Hart, and Daniel Chang. Please come forward.
Well, congratulations to the graduates and welcome to professional journalism. My name's Renuka Rayasam, and I'm accepting this award on behalf of this just fantastic team of reporters and editors. Some who are here today, so Lauren Saucer, Arthur Allen, and our editor Cecilia Reyes are here in the audience, and then Fred Clayson Kelly, Angela Hart and Daniel Chang are back home, hopefully watching this, but I'm accepting this. I was chosen to speak for everyone, for a team. And so I wanted to start by sort of giving you a peek behind the curtain of how this reporting came together. And I'm happy to say we followed, I think, all 4 of your rules, Katie. So as I was hearing you tick them off, I was like, I think we did all that. So the idea for this series really came out of our Southern Bureau Wednesday morning Zoom chit chats that we have. And every week we kept asking these questions of, why is this a problem I'm still writing about? You know, we're healthcare journalists and we see the same disparities over and over and again. And we kept thinking like, you know, why is this still happening? Why does this still exist? Why is this a story that I'm still covering? And almost every time we kept coming back to this issue of racism. And I was told that I was supposed to be inspiring and hopeful to graduates today, and as you sort of embark on your professional careers, but I'm here to talk about racism, which is a persistent and hard and sobering and depressing thing to write about, frankly. But one day, you know, after we'd been having these same conversations over and over again, our fearless editor, Cecilia Reyes, said, well, we have to jump in, and this is a story we have to try and tell. So in journalism, we're in the accountability business, so we're not just asking the questions of why this is happening, but we also wanted to understand who is benefiting from the system being this way, and why hasn't it gotten better? You know, who's making money? Who is getting the advantage by keeping things the way that they are? And so those questions were the ones that led us to a public housing complex in Savannah, Georgia, to a medical school in Jackson, Mississippi, to a homeless encampment in Las Vegas, to a community health center in Oakland. And it was there, right? It wasn't in the White House or on Air Force One or on Wall Street where we found the answers to those questions. It was in speaking with mothers who had lost their children, patients who had been ignored, people living in tents, Black doctors working in Black communities that we saw how these long-standing disparities stem from federal, state, and local governments who've protected the interests of business and the powerful over the well-being of Black residents. And it was a powerful reminder, and I think in this moment, this is something that we all need to be reminded of, that our job is not to provide a megaphone to the powerful, but a voice to the voiceless. And it's easy to take for granted that someone who doesn't often get to see their own story represented would want to talk to a journalist. I worked in sort of Washington political journalism for a long time. You always have sources texting, you want to talk, and you would think, wow, this person who never gets approached by a journalist would be really excited to talk to one, and it's not always that way, and you have to really work to earn that trust, and you have to work to earn their respect, and you have to work to hear their story. And I would say, you know, in this series and our work at KFF Health News in general, we're writing about healthcare, and so often we're asking people to relive some of the hardest, darkest moments of their life. And that's an incredible amount of trust that must be earned, and I think that's something to think about as you sort of go out in your careers, that we think of sources sometimes as a means to an end, when really, like so many of the people we're talking to, they're human beings, and we have to take our responsibility for their stories really seriously, and we have to take that trust really seriously that they put in us. And so, you know, for this story, I spoke to a mom, and she lost her 15-year-old daughter to gun violence in a public housing complex in Savannah. And she recently sent me a thank you card. And this was just before the 1-year anniversary of her daughter Desiree's death. And her name is Detrea Gilliard. I regularly hear from her, you know, before her daughter's birthday and all of that. And anyway, in this thank you card, she said, "Thank you for listening to me, because no one else did, and no one else will." And I feel an enormous amount of responsibility for the trust that she placed in me. But it also brings me to another feeling, and it's one that we don't talk about a lot as journalists, but it's one that I feel all the time as a reporter. Because even as I'm up here, even as I'm accepting an award for this incredible series, for this incredible work of my colleagues, I mean, I feel like a complete failure. Because I wrote that story, right? I talked to this mom, and that story won an award. It was on the front page of USA Today and the Savannah Morning News. And no one's been charged in connection with Desiree's death, still, 2 or 3 years after she died. Because the housing complex where she died, it continues to deteriorate, and nobody's done anything about it. Because that housing complex, it's one step closer to being torn down, which is going to exacerbate all the problems that we wrote about in the first place. And so sometimes you write a story and a law gets changed or a policy gets changed or the horrible thing you're writing about stops, but a lot of times it doesn't. And after more than 2 decades of doing this job, I'll say that's the part that's been the hardest for me to deal with. And I think with the growing amount of misinformation and distrust in the media, with the threats to us as journalists and our ability to tell the stories that matter, I mean, that struggle has become even greater today than in years past. And, you know, I think this is a big question we're trying to answer, which is how do you make people care or see why this is important? This is another question we ask all the time in our reporting. We write these stories, we feel them emotionally, we feel them deeply, we see the injustice, we see the wrong, we see the racism, and we want it to be right, and we want other people to care, we want other people to do something about it, and that doesn't always happen. And I don't have an answer to those questions, big questions you have to think about. But being a journalist, I have what I have, which is a story. And it's a story that my colleague Fred Clayson Kelly, who led this series, who should be up here, but he doesn't like traveling and he doesn't like awards, so he sent me to do his job. But this is a story Fred tells me every time I ask these questions, what are we even doing here as journalists? And that's the story of Joe Delaney, who in 1983 was on top of the world, married, 3 young children, and he was an NFL player for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm not a sports person, but Fred's a sports person, so this is the story he always tells. And so one day, Joe Delaney was at the park with his family, and he saw 3 kids drowning in the water. And Joe Delaney knew how to play football, but he didn't know how to swim. But he said something to the effect of, I gotta jump in and I gotta save those kids. And he did. He jumped in and he tried. And he managed to save 1. But in the end, 2 of the children drowned, and he died too. He drowned as well. And I know, I told you I wasn't gonna be hopeful. I'm talking about racism here. But that's so much of what this business is. And that's so much of what I think you'll encounter. We see people in danger. We don't have all the answers, or maybe we don't have all the answers. And maybe we can't get everyone else out of danger too. But every day we have to jump in. And every day we have to try. Because in the end, what else can we do? Thank you.
And now we will begin the presentation of student awards. The first award will be presented by Professor Marguerite Holloway.
Good morning, congratulations. I'm going to present the Gene Anderson Climate Awards. And the Gene Anderson Feature Writing Award is given each year to students who have distinguished themselves in feature writing as deemed by the faculty. According to a tribute by her friend Fran McCullough, Gene Anderson began her career at the Raleigh Times in North Carolina. After managing to snag a photo and interview with the First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt at an event, she was sold on journalism and enrolled at the journalism school, class of 1957. That year, she won the Pulitzer Traveling Fellowship, which allowed her to have a life-changing year in France. When she returned home, she worked for the Ladies' Home Journal and freelanced for major food and travel magazines and several newspapers, and devoted much of her life to writing cookbooks. In her New York Times obituary, she was described as indefatigable and exacting, a Southern-born food writer and author of nearly 20 cookbooks. In her will, she provided funds for the establishment of awards for feature writing on climate change, social justice, and local news. The Gene Anderson Climate Change Award is given to the student who has written the best feature story on climate change. This year, we have an honorable mention and a winner of our main prize. The Gene Anderson Climate Change Honorable Mention goes to a well-executed piece centered on the Upper West Side on emerging research about how indoor heat is impacting babies everywhere. Climate Change Threatens Pregnant Women and Infant Health by Juliana Abuzahab. All right. And for the main award, for a deeply researched and beautifully written account of an attempt to save the world's coral reefs using a new labor-intensive and community-based approach, the 2025 Jean Anderson Climate Change Award goes to Cuban scientists pilot what may be the last viable coral reef restoration method by Ryan Green. And the next award will be presented by Professor Alexis Clark.
Congratulations, graduates. The next Jean Anderson Award is given to the student who has written the best local feature story. The 2025 Jean Anderson Local Honorable Mention goes to an engaging and well-reported story about a group of Chinese American women who advocated and fundraised for the release of the men and women convicted of the January 6th insurrection. The piece is The Chinese MAGA Mamas in New York City by Shalina Shufanchao. For an exhaustively reported and elegantly written account of the impact of the truffle industry on rural communities in Appalachia, the 2025 Jean Anderson Local Award goes to Diamonds of the Earth by Deba Matasham. The next award will be presented by Professor Alexander Stile.
Hi, everybody. So the Jean Anderson Social Justice Journalism Award is given to the student who has written the best social justice feature story. The Jean Anderson Social Justice Honorable Mention goes to an astonishing expose about the exploitation of egg donors and those who feed them, or those who need them, excuse me. Interesting slip there. You have to read the story. It's really good. Eggs for Sale, Lies on File, Agencies Fake Egg Donor Profiles for Fertility Fraud by Charlene Lynn. Now, And then for an eye-opening, deeply reported investigation into a damaging legal practice called parental alienation, claims the 2025 Jean Anderson Social Justice Award. And it goes to All I Wanted Was Just to Be Free, How Parental Alienation Claims Protect Abusers and Harm Children, by Jessica Shuran Yu. And the next award is presented by Professor Elisa Solomon.
Well, I'm here to present the Nona Balakian Award, which was established in 1992 to honor the student who shows the most promise for achievement in writing about literature, which is to say, to quote Katie Drummond, who nerds out on the beat of literature. Ms. Balakian was a 1943 graduate of the journalism school, and she was an editor of the New York Times Book Review and had huge influence on American arts and letters for more than 4 decades. For a graceful, insightful, and deeply contextual profile of a contemporary novelist whose forthcoming novel the novelist has described as written in third-person clam, the Balakian goes to Carolina Abbott Galvao. The next award will be presented, sorry, I'm a little verklempt. The next award will be presented by Drumel Mehta.
All right. The award for excellence in computational journalism is sponsored by the Brown Institute for Media Innovation and the Tau Center for Digital Journalism. It honors work that makes exceptional use of computation in the service of journalism. This year, we had an unprecedented number of applicants, all of them quite strong. We have 2 honorable mentions and a winner of our main prize. The first honorable mention for novel application of signal processing and linguistic analysis to study speech patterns adopted by TikTok influencers is our first runner-up, Why People Are Talking Differently Online, by Daryl Lau. Our second honorable mention is for the incorporation of AI into a deep investigation of how low-income New Yorkers often struggle with managed long-term care plans to get the care they need. Our next runner-up goes to Inside New York's Medicaid System That Rewards Neglect, by Callum Foote. And finally, the award for excellence in computational journalism goes to a superb project harnessing the power of text embeddings from large language models to develop and test a new method to analyze large corpora of multilingual text. In addition to developing this methodology, the author deployed it to analyze the news narratives around recent violence in the Indian city of Nagpur, looking at which narratives were more prominent in regional versus national news across India's many regional languages. 4, from embeddings to interpretations, a multilingual study of news and representation, the 2025 Brown Tao Award for Computational Journalism goes to Surbhi Sharma. We'll get this to her. The next award will be presented by Keith Goggin, class of 1991.
Good morning. Congratulations, class of 2025. I'm Keith Goggin. I'm a proud member of the class of 1991 here at the Journalism School. I'm a former chair of the Columbia Alumni Association, and I'm a current Columbia University trustee. I'm privileged to stand before you this morning on behalf of the CAA and the Board of Trustees, and I want to honor one of our own by honoring one of your own with this year's Campbell Award. I want to start with a few words about Bill Campbell. Bill held a special place in Columbia's history, and Columbia held a special place in Bill's heart. He was a graduate of Columbia College and Teachers College. As a student, he was co-captain of the football team, the last football team to win the Ivy League championship until this year. He went on to become the head coach. In his professional life, he became the coach of Silicon Valley, the trusted mentor and confidant of Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, Larry Page, Eric Schmidt, Mark Zuckerberg, and countless other tech titans. He also became one of Columbia's most impactful trustees, serving as the board chair from 2005 to 2014. During that time, he was the co-founder and the original champion of the Columbia Alumni Association, a true university treasure. Perhaps the keystone in the CAA's accomplishments has been the development of the culture of university citizenship. University citizens think not just of their school or of themselves, but of the entire university and all of its stakeholders. A university citizen recognizes that we can all become better by working together. Bill Campbell embodied this concept better than anyone else, and the example he set inspires us to do the same. Established by the trustees upon Bill's death in 2016 and presented each year at graduation, the Campbell Award recognizes one student from each of Columbia's schools who has exhibited Bill's generosity of spirit, his quality of leadership, and his devotion to university citizenship. Your J-School Campbell Award winner this year is the president of the CJS Student Government, where she has been a strong advocate for her classmates, often meeting with the school administration on issues related to student experience and reporter safety. She is a promising journalist who is now focusing on documentary filmmaking. It gives me great pleasure to present the Campbell Award to Shubhajana Das. And I see they've wrapped this really well, so you're going to have to give me a second so we can get the right photo. Congratulations. Let's put that back in the box for you. The next award will be presented by Dulin Tu.
Congratulations, everyone. I also want to take a second to congratulate the faculty and staff of the Columbia Journalism School. Students, as much as you think you barely survived us, we barely survived you as well, so. Congrats to all my colleagues. It's my great honor to present two prizes. The DuPont Judy F. Crichton Awards were established in honor of a pioneer in documentary filmmaking, Judy Crichton, who produced docs for CBS Reports and ABC News, and was the founding executive producer of the PBS series American Experience. These awards, one for work produced in the documentary program and one for video journalism, recognize exceptional student video work that embodies the spirit and legacy of Judy Crichton. The first award, for a lyrical and deeply reported portrait of Don Ripe, the guardian of Jamaica Bay. As Ripe nears his 85th birthday, the filmmakers chronicle his decades-long dedication to preserving the city's vital wetlands. With poetic intimacy and strong journalistic lens, Tide in Time captures both the personal passion and environmental urgency of a man whose life's work has inspired generations of New Yorkers. The film offers a moving reflection on legacy, climate change, and the powerful intersection of place and purpose. The 2025 DuPont Judy F. Crichton Documentary Journalism Award goes to Naeem Amarsi. And it's a team effort, Natalie Ruiz Perez, for their film Tide in Time. I don't think Naeem is here with us, but come on. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
And we'll get Naeem his award as well. And so for the second award, for an intimate and affecting exploration of life in Broad Channel, a tight-knit community on the front lines of sea level rise, through the voices of longtime residents, the filmmaker captures the profound sense of loss and resilience as monthly high tides and storms reshape their daily lives. With a keen historical perspective and an eye for emotional nuance, the film is a testament to the enduring connection between people and place, even in the face of an uncertain future. The 2025 DuPont Judy F. Crichton Video Journalism Award goes to Johnny Sturgeon. The next awards will be presented by Professor Winnie O'Kelly.
Hello. The Philip Greer Scholarship Fund Award, presented for the first time in 1988, was established in honor of the late Philip Greer, a financial correspondent and columnist for the New York Herald Tribune and the Washington Post. And it's to recognize the outstanding financial writing in the Master of Arts and Master of Science programs. So, from the MS program, we recognize the students who tackled complex topics like the decay of mobile home parks under private equity ownership and the failure of hospitals to reduce patients per nurse in compliance with New York law. This year's Philip Greer Award goes to Jake Angelo. Okay, one more. From the MA program, we recognize the student who threw herself into business journalism with gusto, learning economics and accounting, and preparing for a career where she can better understand the underlying forces behind injustice at all levels of society. For her thesis, she traveled repeatedly to Western Pennsylvania and really got to know the locals whose lives have been turned upside down and against each other in a battle for safe and clean water 2 decades after fracking forever changed the local environment. In recognition of her reporting strides, her diligence, her leadership, and her promise, we present the Greer Award to Serena Sakach. Okay, and the next award will be presented by Keith Gesson.
I'm Keith Gesson. We've been playing a game all year long, and it's just now coming to... I'm Dean of Students John Haskins. You know that if you've been in trouble. So I'm here to announce the Fred M. Heckinger Journalism Education Award, which was established by the Heckinger Institute Media Education at Teachers College and is awarded for insight and excellence in reporting and writing on the subject of education. This year's Heckinger winner impressed us with a story that is rich in data, energetically reported, and well presented. It explores the issue of teen pregnancy and examines declining rates of the phenomenon, connecting the dots between education, economic life of communities, local politics, and even religion to explain why teenage pregnancy has decreased, much more in some places than in others. We commend her use of design and data visualization in making the dense information she gathered accessible. The 2025 Fred M. Heckinger Journalism Award goes to Julie Hanong Zhu. Now, since this was a data piece, this is actually a graduate from last fall, but so she is not here today. Last summer. But Dean Melanie Huff will send her an action item, and we'll get that to her right away. Now, you've all been waiting for him. You got just a little taste of this a few minutes ago. The next award will be presented by Professor Keith Gesson.
Hello, it is I, Keith Gesson. Please, congratulations to the graduates, class of 2025. Don't forget to pick up your America Divided. There's a few extra copies if you want to pick one up for friends. There they are, there they are. Okay, it is my honor to present the Journalism Editorial Award. This award recognizes excellence in editorial writing for a piece about the style and menace of Donald Trump's presidential portrait, delving into art history and the effect of light, color, and expression on the emotional experience of the viewer. This year's Journalism Editorial Award goes to Monet Guilbeault. The next award will be presented by Professor Sheila Coronel.
The Peter Keller Prize honors excellent editing skills. It was created to honor Keller, who spent 56 years at the Wall Street Journal, where he started in the composing room and rose to national news editor. As night editor for over 25 years, he created one of the highest editing standards in the nation. He trained several generations of reporters and editors who call him the living legend of the journal. Keller reminds us that journalism is a team sport. We need great writers, but we also need great editors. We do indeed. For her stellar performance in this year's news editing class, this year's Peter Keller Award goes to Martina Di La Cosa. The next award will be presented by Professor Rob Embriano.
I thought you were going to say Keith Gesson. I love following Sheila because the mic is in the right place. Congratulations. The Joan Connor Broadcast Journalism Award is presented to the MS student who has produced the most thought-provoking and original television or radio reporting. It was established by Dean Emerita Joan Connor, class of '61, who had a long and award-winning career as producer for WNET Channel 13. The winner of this award is Chelsea Rose Casabona. And the next award will be presented by Professor Sam Friedman.
The Linton Fellowship in Book Writing is funded by the Linton Foundation, who, by the way, are also major donors to the J. Anthony Lucas Book Prizes. And these fellowships are intended to encourage excellence and fund research in nonfiction writing by young, up-and-coming authors. Normally, we have 2 Linton winners. I asked for special dispensation in this my final year after having a tremendously gifted class to have 3, and they agreed, so we divided the pile of money a different way this year than usual. And the recipients are, first of all, for a book about the Oxford Union Debating Society and what it reveals about the transmission and creation of power in Great Britain, Anvi Bhutani. Wait for her to get up here. And also, please, all 3 winners stay up for a joint portrait at the end. The second award goes to the author of a book in progress about Ukraine's search for a national identity, a story that's told both by participants in the movement for political freedom and resistance to Russian military conquest in Ukraine, and also by the story of the author's own immigrant family. And that winner is Ali Markovich. It's really awful to see you hate on a classmate that way. Okay. And lastly, and how I wish this year there were 10 more to give, but lastly, for a book about the interrelationship between the fast food industry and modern American politics, and particularly our air quotes populism of the last 10, 12 years, the winner is Kate Taylor. The next award will be given by Professor Nick Lemon.
The Arthur J. Harris Memorial Prize allows a leading MA student to complete an ambitious story. For her proposal on, just a little suspense pause here, because the next word you'll know, tuberculosis in Nigeria, focusing both on the impact of the Trump administration's cuts in international aid and on the shortcomings of Nigeria's healthcare system, the award goes to Olivia Obichukwu. And now, hold up, because you didn't let me finish telling you her name. Olivia Obichukwu and Duboisi. I also want to credit Azmat Khan, my fellow judge, for this award. The next award will be presented by, awards will be presented by Dean George Miller.
Thank you, everyone. What a great day. The master's thesis is the single largest endeavor most of our students will undertake at the journalism school. And now that they're done, applause, yes. Now that they're done, it's time to celebrate their work with 2 awards specifically for excellence in the MA thesis. The first of these, the Morton Mintz Fellowships, were established in honor of the crusading investigative reporter for the Washington Post, best known for his work exposing corporate misconduct in the tobacco, automotive, and pharmaceutical industries. It is given each year in the form of a thesis travel grant to MA projects of high quality and especially high ambition, of which both of these projects really were. These projects specifically cover international social policy. This year's Mintz Award winners are Abiosa Adams and Chris Kavala. All right, take a lap. Let's get all this. Thank you. Chris, I wouldn't go too far. Chris, stick around for a second. For outstanding performance on the master's thesis, we have 2 honorable mentions. The first of which is a piece that looks at the Refusnik movement in Israel. The Refusnik movement in Israel is the tiny network of young people who have publicly declined to serve in the country's compulsory military service. The thesis expertly explores the motivations and impact of these dissenters. So for honorable mention, the award goes to Chris Carla. One more time. I can go, I guess. Yes, sir. For a stellar thesis following a group of mothers who advocate for the usage of clozapine, the tightly regulated antipsychotic drug that could potentially transform the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans with schizophrenia, the other honorable mention goes to Alexandra Ali Markovich. The MA theses were a pretty amazing collection of stories, and it was a really difficult decision to come down to one final best. But our best MA thesis for 2025 is the story of truffles. It's a story of truffles around the world and in the United States, and specifically in the heart of the Appalachian Range. This well-reported and wonderfully told story is also a story about people and politics, accessibility and authenticity, and the future of one of the most biologically diverse areas in the temperate world. The best MA thesis award goes to Diamonds of the Earth by Diba Mohtasham. And our next award will be presented by Professor Juan Manuel Benitez. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, everybody. So Professor Melvin Mencher taught at our school for 28 years, specializing in deeply researched stories about the workings of government. After his retirement in 1990, his former students established an award in his name. One of those former students, Professor Ari Goldman, has chaired the awards review committee since then. Now that he has retired, he has passed on his role to me. He, Professor Coronel, and I selected this year's winner. Professor Mencher, who is 98 years old, read the winning story and enthusiastically affirmed our decision. So, I don't know who this student is. For a powerful story, a powerful example of the kind of in-depth, well-sourced reporting that Professor Mencher demanded of his students throughout his tenure. An excellent story about how some New York hotels exploit the housekeepers making the beds and cleaning the rooms, working long hours for minimum pay while receiving few benefits. This year's Melvin Mencher Award goes to Justine Landis Hanley. The next award will be presented by Professor Asmat Khan.
Hi, everyone. I'm genuinely so excited for you. This is one of my favorite days at the J School. The Henry N. Taylor Award was established in 1962 by friends of Henry Taylor, who was killed on assignment in the Congo at the age of 31. The award is given annually to a student in the international division who's demonstrated the qualities of a superior journalist. The award includes a grant providing for travel in the United States before returning to their homeland. This year, the award goes to Christiana Alexakis. And the next award will be presented by my dear friend, Professor Daniel Alarcón.
Hello, congratulations everyone. This is so fun. Okay, so the James A. Weschler Memorial Awards were established by the Pisces Foundation in memory of the former editor and columnist at the New York Post. The first Weschler Award goes to the student who submits the best story on a significant international issue. For this rare and deeply personal look at what it means to live with a chronic condition in the midst of war, the reporter spent 8 months reporting the lives of Palestinians living with epilepsy, an underreported story that highlights the devastating impact of Israel's bombardment on Gaza's healthcare system. Despite limited internet access, electricity cuts, and intense bombardments, she still got access to sources on the ground remotely. She interviewed more than a dozen people, including patients, caregivers, and humanitarian experts. The 2025 Weschler International Award goes to For Epilepsy in Gaza by Claudia Gon. All right, two more. The second Weschler Award for national reporting goes to a wonderful example of intrepid and dogged reporting in the public interest, exemplifying the values of this school and of the Weschler Memorial Award. The reporters' look at abuse in the gig work economy is both eye-opening and enraging. Companies like InstaWork purport to help workers by connecting them to opportunities, but in case after documented case, they've been found to stiff workers' pay and deny them benefits. The 2025 Weschler National Award goes to The Gig Trap, Inside the Hidden Industry Exploiting Workers on Demand by Ridi Sethi and Justine Landis-Handler. Yes, okay, and the third award, the third Weschler Award, is presented to the student who, in the opinion of the faculty, submits the best story on a significant local issue. For a standout piece of local reporting that examines how rising sea levels due to climate change are affecting barrier islands right here in New York. Deeply sourced and wonderfully written, it contrasts how one indigenous and resource-poor community on Long Island is struggling to fortify itself against climate change, while a nearby wealthy neighborhood seems to have all the climate-resilient resources in the world at its disposal. The 2025 Weschler Local Award goes to Ryan Green. And the next award will be presented by Professor Joanne Farian.
Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to present the Lewis Winnick Prize. It is endowed by the Winnick family, and it's given for the best story about New York City. For her reporting on delays in ambulance response times as New York City fails to address its shortage of EMS workers or to negotiate a new contract for them, this year's Winnick Prize goes to Anna Olamp Castellan.
I would now like to recognize those Master of Science students who will graduate with honors. And so, before we do this, I have a trivia question for you. What is the least adhered to sentence in the English language? Hold your applause until the end. But we're going to try it anyway. So please, hold your applause until all names have been read. And please stand as I read your name. Christiana Alexakis. Jake Angelo. See, you're losing it a little bit. Stay with me. Irene Bantigue. Leonardo Bibalacqua. Envy Bhutani, Gaia Karamatsa, Chelsea Rose Casabona, Edward Cleaver, Dana Edwards, Vito Emanuel, Lauren Farkas, Jennifer Yihan Gan, Carolyn Javinsky, Lauren Gould. Actually, I'm good with the finger snap thing. We could do the finger snap thing. All right, I'm good with that. Like, you know, we're finding compromises here. Megha Gupta, Mariana Hernandez, Mitra Cardenstuncier, Laura Kukinen, Justine Landis Hanley, Hannah Lorenzo, Owen Mason Hill, Anna Oakes, Johnny Sturgeon, who also is recognized for having the best name ever, Riddhi Sethi, Dua Shah, Cindy Shan, Larkin Smith, Fred Voon, and finally, Jessica Sharan Yu. Now, thank you. And now the awards to the highest achievers in the class. The 5 Pulitzer Traveling Fellowships are part of Joseph Pulitzer's founding legacy to the school. They are designed to enable travel and study abroad. 4 of them allow students to observe people, politics, society, and the character of the foreign press. 1 fellowship is presented to a student who wishes to specialize in arts criticism, or reporting on the arts, drama, music, literature, film, or television. For all winners, the award is the mark of achievement and a sign of accomplishments to come. The Pulitzer Traveling Fellowship for a student with special interest in arts criticism or reporting goes to MA student Karen Lindell. A second fellowship goes to Vito Emanuel. The third goes to Johnny Sturgeon. The fourth goes to Justine Landis Hanley. Oops.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
And the final fellowship goes to the top graduate of the MS class, our valedictorian, Riddhi Sethi. Congratulations to all of you. Now I have, this is kind of a comical statement I have to make here. Those of you whose awards include a monetary prize must go to 207C Pulitzer Hall immediately after this ceremony to work with Chanel Roche on securing those funds. I don't know what that means. If you're not there in 15 minutes, we're taking it back. Keep an eye out for an email from Dean Huff with final instructions for tomorrow's graduation events. And this concludes the Journalism Day ceremony. Thank you.